What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the Funky Brain podcast. My name is Dennis, and this is my funky brain. There's a lot going on up here, but I'm feeling much better now. Anyway, our guest today is a super fun, vibrant, energetic, exciting woman and a new mom, but we'll talk about that soon. She's changing the way society views sobriety by making recovery and wellness spaces exciting, fun, social, and empowering. And I love all of that because I think addiction recovery needs to be more public and accepting more than it has been over the last 100 years or so. She's a sober coach and host of Sober Vibes, a podcast about, as you might guess, sobriety. It's more than just a podcast. It's an online support community for recovery, which I love. Mrs. Courtney Andersen, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm so awesome. Everything's
Wonderful.
amazing. How is 2021 going, which I think I know? And are you ready for 2022? What's going on?
Okay, 2021 has probably been one of the best years of my life just because my son was born, all within it was just such a sweet year. And I'm telling you, people are very nice to pregnant women.
Yeah.
So my son was born on September 1st. It was a long journey. It took us 6 years through trying to conceive, IVF, all of that jazz. So just what a blessing to come out of 2020 into 2021. And that was really the focus of my whole year was him. And then now going through the fourth trimester, I'm almost out of it, just accepting this new way of life, because it is, and definitely a little human being turning our world upside down, and me adjusting to that, me adjusting to this new postpartum body, all of that. So I look forward to 2022 just because of how he's going to grow, because it's been fun seeing him grow, and just I wake up each day just amazed by his little face and all the new things he does every day. So
Yeah, so share with us a little bit about your story, what got you to what you do today and to inspire other people.
So I got sober August 18th of 2012, and this is just how it led me. Thank you. This is what it led me to my whole Sober Vibes community and the podcast and coaching. So I had a toxic love affair with alcohol for 10 years. I started drinking when I was 19. For many years, I said I wasn't going to drink because alcoholism ran in my family. And then living in the suburbs of Detroit, you can go to Canada, to Windsor, and the drinking age is 19. So that's where I fell in love with the scene. And just the culture of alcohol at the bar scene, and it started off very innocently, like I think that anybody's relationship with alcohol does. And then within time, it morphed into something a lot darker. And by the time I was 25, I was like, I'm going to have to give up alcohol one day. I know I'm going to have to be sober, because alcohol and I just don't go hand in hand. I mean, at that point, I would black out on a weekly basis. I've woken up in jail. I've woken up in hospitals, not knowing how I got there, woke up in men's beds, not even knowing their name, but I could tell you the bar we met at, just being an animal. And I say that because I do use humor in my life and in my recovery, because it's kept me sane and it's kept me going. And you got to laugh at yourself sometimes. Yes, it's a serious topic, but you have to laugh at yourself, because you look back and you're like, God, I can't believe I used to act like that. But it was alcohol. So from 25 to 29, I really tried to moderate my drinking, put a bunch of rules and stipulations on it. I would go a week without drinking and thought I was hot shit. Like, oh yeah, you don't have a problem. Towards the end, I just became like, I would just drink once a week, but it was always problematic. Never agreed with me. But I do want to say this on a side note. I don't ever regret my years of drinking, because there were some nights that I did have fun, and it happened, and it brought me up to the point that I am today. So, there were some times I did have fun drinking with girlfriends, but that was only like 10% of the time. So finally, at 29 years old, I was working my last shift in the bar. My boyfriend at the time was like, please don't go in and get all hammered, don't take shots right away. And I was like, of course not. And of course, when I went in, that was the first thing I started to do. The next day I woke up to my best friend telling me that I had lost my cat again, this was the second time I now lost my cat in a blackout because I went outside to smoke a cigarette and left the screen door open. She's like, and Matt is very pissed off because you picked a fight with him. Which I ended up that evening standing over the bed and threatening the man's life. So like, who wants to be in a relationship with that? Nobody does. No one wants to be in a relationship with an animal. So he came downstairs that morning and gave me, I don't think it was an ultimatum. Some people, what Matt gave me that day was a choice. And that was, you can either continue drinking and I'm not going to be on this path with you, or quit drinking. Because at that point we were together a year and a half and all he saw was me just with my drinking issue. Or he's like, or, you can quit drinking and we can continue this relationship. So for 3 days I sat and tried to find my cat. And I made a deal to the universe. I said, if I find my cat and she comes back home alive, I will gladly give up alcohol and give this sober life a go. Found Fiona after 3 days. Thank the Lord, baby Jesus, because I love that little cat. She's still alive today. And Matt, him and I got married, and I haven't touched alcohol since then.
That's a great story. Yeah, that's like the happy ending. We usually don't hear the happy ending go with the relationships go that way.
Yeah.
Our world.
And I mean, previous to this, I had messed up a lot of relationships. I messed up a lot of opportunities with just always choosing alcohol. And so finally he was the one where it was just like, I really cared about him and loved him enough to be like, okay, you know what? I've tried this for 4 years. I've tried this for actually 10 years and it's not working for me anymore. So that I kind of explain, as I said in the beginning, as I was in a toxic relationship with alcohol. And I think that that's eventually how it ends for people, because the drinking, becomes habitual. And it's one of those things. And we've all been, I believe, in one of those relationships where it's just like, it's better when you're not with it, the substance anymore, or the person. Like, it just doesn't go hand in hand, and that's okay. When I did get sober, I did some AA in the beginning, and it was something that just didn't click with me. I wasn't there. I just wasn't there. I think that is a very intimidating process or situation to walk into, because you're still dealing with the fact that you cannot have alcohol in your life. And so it's just one of those things. I did go back a couple of years after getting sober because I wanted to give the program an honest go and see what that was all about. And in my time in AA during that's when the idea of Sober Vibes came to it. I deal more with women, of how I've geared this community to be, because I think women need to be in that safe space with sharing what has happened to them in the community. And I'm for all female empowerment. I believe that recovering out loud and recovery and sobriety and addiction, it is very, addiction, of course, is very sad. It's a very heavy topic, but I try to empower, and that's just where I come from with the empowerment in your recovery and sobriety. This shit doesn't have to be shameful. Everybody's got their own, got their story. It's just one of those things where it's just like, it doesn't have to be shameful and hush hush. I respect people's privacy though. With me, I started recovering out loud 30 days in, because it helped me in my own process of releasing that shame. It's like, you know what? I hid in this for 10 years. Why am I going to continue to hide in this again? So I recover out loud and have been ever since.
I do too, obviously. And,
yes.
But I think it's a, part of, do you still go to AA?
I don't, no.
Yeah, I don't. And, but, that was the anonymity thing. That's how it started, 90 years ago. And that's fine. But I think we're all on our own path. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. If you want to be anonymous, be anonymous. If you want to speak out loud, speak out loud. Yeah. I don't think we have the same rules that we once had. So whatever is keeping you sober and not dying, you gotta keep doing that. Right.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. And I agree with you 100%. And it comes down to that, sometimes you do have to watch your words of how, because I've had people come back at me with defending AA and that, and it's like, oh, I did it. I took what I wanted and left the rest with anything. And this is not all, it's 2021 here. It's not that's not the only way that you can recover. It's a great tool. And if it works for you, it works for you. And if it's not, it's okay. There's other options.
Well, we can go into it. I love talking about it, but I went to it for like 15 years. And it's great. And I think the mistake I made was that it's a great intro
Yes.
to what the real problem is. And the real problem isn't the drinking, it's my thinking. So I didn't know any of that. I thought, oh, you just stopped drinking. So it's a great intro. It's like, oh, I drank because I'm unsettled. Maybe there's a spiritual life out there. Let's clear up the past, right the wrongs, and practice a spiritual living and help other people, which is a really important piece. So I learned that, and I think it's important for everybody to go, and the fellowship is really awesome. But you know, when you see the people in there for 20, 30, 40 years of sobriety talking about page 58, 64, it's like, you know, there's like a billion books out there, and you're studying the same book for decades, and there's a lot more out there now. So that's my opinion on it. But I also send some of my clients there. I say, go there, surround yourself with like-minded people and other people that are struggling, and get some early answers in between our meetings. And then it's a great place to start and make friends and have a fellowship.
Well, and too, it's great perspective, you know, like when I participated, I sat at a woman's table and I listened, because I'm one for talking. So I didn't like how you couldn't cross talk. That was hard for me. Just because not inserting an opinion, I wanted more of a person's perspective, you know, so that was hard for me in the sense, but I sat there and listened, and there's more to life, especially too when you get sober. I'm just saying there's more to life of where you got to live it, you know, and there's more tools out there you can get to use to be able to go and do things. You know, I listened to one woman just saying how she would love to go to a baseball game, but was scared to or fearful. And so I listened to that and just, that's where more of the empowerment comes from. Cause I think that especially women, everybody needs more empowerment, but where I'm directed towards is women need the empowerment and support to, like, you can do this. You don't have to be afraid to go out to dinner or go see a baseball game because alcohol is there. Because you have to really, in this society now, if you want to get out, you have to get uncomfortable a little bit to get comfortable in a world that is filled with alcohol. You just do. I mean, you know, because now they sell alcohol at gas stations now. There's alcohol at movie theaters. It's like, you can't just be a hermit. Your life is gonna grow in your sobriety if you choose to, you know. But I do understand the first couple of years, some people they have to stop going out to eat. It's triggering. I understand that.
Yeah. And I've had people ask all the time, you know, do I need to avoid going here and avoid doing this and avoid doing that? And it's like, I avoided life by when I was drinking. Like the idea of sobriety is I don't want to avoid anything. No, we have to be smart, you know. And if I go to the bar every Sunday to watch football and I'll get drunk and ruin my life, maybe I shouldn't do that for a little while. But at some point, if you want to go to the bar, you know, after you feel comfortable in your new life, then you can. But what I'm saying is that once you build your new life, you won't want to go to the bar, but you do have that choice. And that's what sobriety is. It's having choices, right? We don't want to avoid going anywhere on the planet. We can go anywhere and have just as much fun as anybody else.
Oh yeah. And there's I have more fun in my sober life than I did in my active addiction.
Oh, totally. So tell us about September 14th.
Oh, September 14th is National Sober Day. So I created that a couple years ago. I want to say, what was it, back in 2019? Came up with the idea where actually I was watching a show and this girl created a holiday. So I was like, is there a National Sober Day? So I went to the website of, you know, the company that does this, and I looked and there was not. And with National Sober Day, yes, you should celebrate sobriety every day, and I'm down for it. But I just wanted something of more of a national recognition that sobriety is not this dreadful, no fun, sad life, and create awareness towards, there's so many people who are living a sober life out loud. Also to give them the opportunity of, family members or friends, like, how can I support my friend who's sober, don't drink for the day, and just bring added awareness to the disease of addiction. So that's really how National Sober Day came up. So September 14th of every calendar year. I chose September 14th because to honor National Recovery Month is September. And then September 14th is actually both of my grandmas died that day. Obviously different years, but they both died on September 14th. And they were very impactful women in my life. My one grandma actually stopped drinking when my brother was born to be present. She knew that there was an issue. And then my other grandma, I just adored Jerry. So it's kind of to pay tribute to them too.
That's a beautiful story. I love that. Thank you for sharing that and for doing that. I think that's a really great little step there.
So I'm hoping to have a party this year in Detroit, 2022. I obviously could not do it these past 2 years. 2020, I did a Zoom party, which you can listen to that on the Sober Vibes podcast that I released in 2021. I believe it's episode 69.
For people that are struggling out there right now, share some of the tools that you use to navigate life when it gets difficult.
I definitely think some tools that people need to put into place with them is, one of the things, and I don't know if it's a tool, but just with sobriety, you have to remember your why. You really do have to remember of why you decided to quit drinking or using drugs, and to keep that close to your heart and remember that every day. If you need to write it on a Post-it note, please do. And then so you're reading it, not that it's just in your brain and you're like, yeah, I got a DUI 3 years ago, that you're actually seeing it and remembering it every day. Good tools to get into too is to start building some structure in your day-to-day routine with some wellness, meditation. I tell people all the time to get in meditation as soon as possible. Working out. It's all definite things that are going to make you feel better. Stay hydrated, absolutely, would be a great tool, because it just makes you feel better. And then when you feel better, you're not going to want to turn to drugs and alcohol. You know what I mean? Also too, if you just find yourself a support group, some type of somebody besides yourself to be accountable to. One tip I do have too is to, as you were going to saying, to go back like, hey, can I go to the bar and watch a football game? I created this early on in my recovery, and I call it the 60-minute rule, where go and participate in life. If you have to show up to something, a family, the holidays are coming, you got to show up to your family's house, but there's heavy drinking around. You don't just feel that, kind of, you're like, do I want to go? Should I put myself into that? But you do want to participate. Go for an hour. Call it a day after an hour, because usually sometimes, your anxiety can get the best of you. But also too, if there's drinking involved, as that time goes, people start going on planet Pluto and you're like no longer there. So I say 60 minutes because it's long enough not to be rude to leave. You know what I mean? Where you're like, you put in the appearance, maybe you're guilt tripped by your family to go, or you want to go out to the bar and watch the football and participate. And an hour is enough to not put yourself so far over the edge where you slip and have a drink.
I've not heard of that one before, but I really like it. I think it's great. And everybody's so concerned with having fun, and I could chime in there for a second. It was like when I was partying back in my day, it was like I always was under the impression that life had to be fun all the time. And now that I'm sober, here's what I think. I still think life should be fun all the time, but my idea of what's fun has changed. So it used to be I had to listen to old classic rock and snort lines in the bathroom and play pool and drink whiskey. And now it's fun. I like listening to the symphony, or classical music, and riding my bike around where I live is really beautiful. And like my idea of what's fun has changed, and my life has calmed down. So it's like, that's what sobriety affords you, a different perspective about life.
Right. And then if you looking back to all of that, because it's all a mindset, right? So you look back to that and you're like, okay, were those hangovers fun? Is a hangover really fun? Because at the end of the day, the next day, I know what that feels like, to snort a bunch of lines and drink whiskey. You do not feel good the next day. You feel
Right.
like garbage. And then think of how many times you did that. Like I pissed away a lot of years just laying around dry heaving on myself because I had such a bad hangover.
I agree.
And then would go and function in life and be like, okay, I cleaned my apartment. I went and did these errands. It's time to go out and have a couple drinks because that's fun. And then the 2 to 3 day cycle would start over again. So yes, I agree with you. It's just the idea of fun changes. Me listening to music, I agree with you. Listening to music and just doing that is fun.
Yeah, doing nothing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like doing nothing. You appreciate it more, I think, as you get older. I'm almost 50 now, and it's like, I like it. But like, if you were to look at me 30 years ago, I had to be like, go, 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 go. And now it's like, I appreciate. I remember being when I was a kid, we would be swimming, and my Uncle Bob would just be laying in the water like this, and we were like throwing balls at him, like, come on, let's play, throw me in the pool, watch me do a backflip, do all this stuff. And he was just like, and now I'm in the pool every day, and I'm just like laying there, and the kids are screaming, and I'm like, I just want to like chill. So yeah, life changes, and I think some of it is just getting older, but some of it is just having different perspective, more mindfulness and awareness.
Yeah. And then are you an introvert or extrovert?
I am an introvert. I appear
Okay.
to be an extrovert because I'm a speaker and a podcast guy, and I
Yeah.
do all these things, but I don't get filled up. Those things suck my energy.
Yeah. So laying now in a pool, relax. It's like, that's fine with you and being left alone
Oh yeah, yeah. Leave me
and
alone.
like not talking.
Yeah,
No,
okay.
it's true. I mean, there's some days where I'm just like, I don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah, yeah. Only like Monday through Friday.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But that's
No, I'm
another
just
thing.
kidding.
But that's another thing too of an idea of fun. I've told clients before and have mentioned this on my podcast of like, because it's always like I had to Google hobbies when I got sober that first week because I did not have any hobbies besides drinking and going to work. But going back to what really you enjoyed doing as a child, because there's life before the addiction and the innocence of being a kid and a young adult. It's just like, what did you do? So for me, I used to love baking. And so in my sobriety, those first couple of years, I baked all the time, but that was fun for me because I was creating something. It kept my mind off from drinking. At the end of it, it was just there was something that was created. And I'm like, God, I utilized my time and there was an end result, except for, when you drink the next day, the end result is doom and gloom. So, like me doing something, like there was like some happiness and some joy that was brought out of me of creating that.
Yeah,
So
that's great stuff. I love cooking too. If you can go back to your 15-year-old self and have a talk, what would you tell that girl?
I would tell that girl that to start building her confidence then, because in my drinking, that's where I thought my confidence was coming from. It came out in my drinking, but being sober, it definitely was not there. So I would say I would have told her to start working on her confidence.
Yeah, I love that. I agree 100%. In closing up, share some positive inspirational words for anybody who's in like a dark place right now and doesn't think there's a way out.
So this one like gets me teared up because it's just because I've been there before where just being in such a dark place, suicidal thoughts, I've had that before, actions, and it's scary. But to be in the addiction space where you might have come off of a bender or crying in a hangover or crying when you were drinking and just feels like there's nothing out there for you, the truth is there is, and that you are worth it and you are worth the fight and to keep going, and that it gets easier and easier and easier as time goes on, but you just have to choose not to drink in that day and just keep going. And 30, one day adds up to 30 days, 30 days adds up to a year, and it's just you are worth the fight. So you really are worth the fight, and that's what it is, because for me it was a matter of life and death. My drinking was very dangerous, and a lot of people's active addiction is very dangerous. So you are worth the living, and you can do it. I mean, there's not anybody can do this.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
And
you're
so,
welcome.
how can people connect with you?
I like to hang out on Instagram. So Sober Vibes, you can find me on Instagram there. My website's courtneyrecovered.com. Also too, I have the Sober Vibes podcast. Season 3 will be out in 2022, which you are coming on season 3. We are talking for that. And so you can look that up. That's on all, wherever I put that podcast on all podcast apps. So your favorite podcast app, you can find it there. I do have a Sober Vibes Facebook group, but that is for women only.
All right. Well, thanks for showing up and hanging out with us and offering some beautiful inspirational words. Please, people, reach out to Courtney at courtneyrecovered.com.
Yeah, courtneyrecovered.com. And I do have on there too to grab, I created a 30-day sober, not boring calendar where I put in there, because it's very hard and it can get overwhelming to think of like fun stuff to do. So each day I give you an activity to do of not drinking.
I love that. Yeah, because people get confused. So like, I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to, what should I do? And they don't do anything or drink.
Right.
And so providing that's a great tool. I love it. Great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Courtney. I appreciate it. And thanks everybody for tuning in to the Funky Brain podcast today. Hope you learned something good. I sure did. And have a beautiful day. Talk to you soon.